Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like these. Now, let's get into today's story video. Separated 5 months. Soon-to-be ex-wife cheated multiple times. Feeling stuck? Long post/vent. My soon-to-be ex-wife, 26 female, and I, 27 male, met around 3.5 years ago. We both worked for the same firm and spoke on a daily basis. We discovered we had many interests and started dating almost immediately. We were having a fantastic time together, spending a lot of time together, having a lot of, and creating a lot of nice memories. It seems ridiculous and quick, but she declared her love for me within the first few weeks and expressed her want to spend the rest of our lives with Eric before we had ever slept together, and I returned the favor. I'd previously been in a long-term, 4 to 5 year, committed relationship, but this was the first time I'd felt anything like this. We get together in the mornings before work, speak all day at work, have lunch, go out to dinner, then spend the night together. We discussed family values, what we were seeking for in a life mate, and our parenting ideals. Everything that is vital in terms of basic values and beliefs. She was stunningly attractive and an all-around excellent lady in every sense. She sat me down about 2 months into our relationship and did the whole "I want to be honest with you" splurging of information regarding her past infidelities and instances where she slept with married men, most recently a married man whose wife had just given birth to their first child within our company a few weeks prior to the start of our relationship. That night, I tried to break it off. I conveyed to her my perspectives and approach on marriage, and how I believed she didn't share that view since she slept with another woman's husband. She sobbed as I started moving some of my items into the vehicle. When I returned to her apartment to check on her, I discovered her in the kitchen with 3 massive self-inflicted slashes on her leg. I couldn't leave her alone after some first aid, so I remained the night. We spoke about it, and she argued that the person she was before we began dating wasn't the person she had become. I believed her when she said I had transformed her, made her want to be better. She was able to make me feel it. Everything seemed to be going swimmingly from that point on. We had a few little arguments here and there, but what relationship doesn't? To me, there was nothing that couldn't be worked out. In the larger scheme of things, being able to look back is a bad way to start a relationship. However, one must live and learn. After another month, she's pregnant, and we're now 3 months into our relationship. It's hardly surprising. We weren't doing much, if anything, to prevent it. I was overjoyed, and I assumed she was as well. As the pregnancy proceeded, various complications arose. According to what I've been told, she recognized at some point that she wasn't ready to have a kid, and that whatever she said about wanting to be with me, or that I was all she ever wanted, was a lie. I lost it when she tried to leave while she was around 3 months pregnant. I was terrified of losing my unborn kid, with whom I was already madly in love. I was terrified since she had just suggested abortion. I urged her to remain because I wanted our kid to survive. According to what she said, this is the day she lost all respect for me. She does suffer from depression, and I had no clue how to treat her at the moment. When a depressed episode struck, my first instinct was to wait for it to pass. We'd sit there in quiet, waiting for her to be happy again. It took a few days at times, and weeks at other times. It took me almost 2 years to start conducting my own study to understand about her depression and what she goes through on a daily basis. But it was too late by then. She'd already checked out and began cheating. It was ever my aim to make her feel alone or unsupported. I was dealing with it the best way I knew how at the time. I'd never dealt with anything like that before. We both lost our jobs in the autumn of 2015, just before the holidays. Months passed before one of us found a job. We had no option but to relocate to the home of a friend of mine. This sends us both into a tailspin, but we never discuss it. I'm not glad that I finally started working in January of 2016, but we're saving money, and it's covering our expenses. There would be days when we both ask what was wrong, but we both respond with nothing or "I'm okay," knowing well that the other person didn't believe us. I see now that she genuinely wanted me to explain what I was going through, but I thought that her sadness was a big enough mountain that we were having difficulties overcoming that I didn't want to complicate matters by adding my troubles to the mix. So I try my best to mask any anguish I feel about having to transfer my wife and our then 1-year-old boy into the 2-story house of a young, wealthy female acquaintance, around our 1-year wedding anniversary. In February 2016, I began to notice certain trends. I mentioned them to our roommate, and she confirms that she has observed them as well. My SDBX was getting more and more dressed up to go out with friends and stay out later and later. It went from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and 3 a.m. in one case. She didn't get home until 5 a.m., citing I fell asleep on a friend's sofa. I understood what was going on deep inside, but I wanted to trust her, so I didn't seek for any further information. It was at this time that I realized I was going to lose my wife, and I realized that in order to win her back, I had to make an effort to really understand her despair. So I began reading, studying, and learning in order to open up channels of connection. She had always been worried about my health, so I began walking a mile or two with our kid in the evenings. She would sometimes join us, but she would often depart early to hang out with pals. I did all I could to make her know she could come to me if she was feeling depressed, and she sometimes did. But I believed she had already accepted that I would be unable to support her in the manner she required, so she sought solace in other men. In March of 2016, we finally moved out of my friend's home and into our own apartment. Things improved for about a month. Then I began seeing some of the same trends all over again. She stayed out late, went directly to the restroom when she came home, logged off Facebook, and locked her phone. She eventually starts working at the end of April/beginning of May. Everything will be revealed in mid-May. I managed to apprehend her. One night, she returned home after drinks with coworkers. We'd promised she'd be home at a reasonable hour so I could spend time with her. She didn't get home until after 3 a.m. She plugged in her phone to charge it before falling asleep on the sofa. When I attempted to kiss and embrace her when she arrived home, she was cold. I'm guessing she went to the restroom to clean up. When I questioned her why she was sleeping on the sofa, she said that she wasn't feeling well. She had left her phone plugged in next to the bed in the room. I felt terrible, but I grabbed up her phone, unlocked it, and started reading some violent text messages. When I challenged her about it, she denied it. It wasn't until I started reading the notes to her that she offered anything like an admission. We spoke about it all night and all morning. I asked if there was anybody else I should speak with since I'm ready to go on and work on our marriage. She declined. I wanted to trust her, but I think a bigger part of me didn't. I searched through her phone again the following morning while she was in the shower and discovered some more explicit texts with a second person, who was really the first, with whom she had been sleeping while we were staying with my buddy. This man assisted us in relocating to our new home. I felt so betrayed that she would arrange for me to meet with a man she had been sleeping with. It pained to know that I had met this guy and that they had this secret between them. Nonetheless, I gave her another opportunity. I imposed a slew of restrictions on her, such as curfews, who she could socialize with and check-ins, but I quickly abandoned them. I despised the fact that I felt like a babysitter. I reasoned that if I really wanted to trust her, and if I wanted her to know that I trusted her, I'd simply do it. Things were difficult. There were times when it felt amazing and I thought we'd make it, and other times when I worried that history would repeat itself and she wouldn't learn. In retrospect, I was concealing a lot of my rage and anguish. I was filled with a sense of betrayal. I placed so much faith in her, and she lied to me all the time. I'd even ask her if she was cheating, and I'd wind up being the bad one for even believing she could. In July, after meeting those two men, she met a man from out of state when we were on a brief family vacation out of town. I could see right away that something was going on between them when I was away visiting relatives with our kid, and she was spending the day with pals. When we arrived home at the end of the weekend, I discovered her texting this man about how much she missed him and how much she can't wait to see him again, and other such things. We had a conversation about how, because of the adultery, it wasn't right to send messages like that to a person who has indicated romantic interest in her. I subsequently discovered that she had exhibited interest in him that day as well, but that she had told him she was seeking to work on her marriage. I'm not sure how she planned to do that while displaying affections for someone else, but I don't comprehend anything she's done. In August, I traveled out of town to see relatives and brought our child with me. She traveled out of state to meet the man she met on our vacation. She had informed me that they were just friends and nothing more. She wanted to attend an event in his neighborhood, and it was also his birthday. She informed me that they had become good friends and that he was a terrific support system for her, and that he had really helped her with her sadness. I had a feeling something bad was going to happen leading up to this trip, but I wanted to show her that I trusted her and wanted to assist her with her sadness in any way I could, so I believed her. We even had some wonderful the day before we went for our respective vacations. Throughout the weekend, she sent me updates on how her weekend was going, photographs and snaps of what they were doing, and she told me when he attempted to make advances on her and that she would reject him down. She ended up telling me that she fell asleep in his arms the day we were both on our way back. Understandably, I became enraged. Once again, I felt deceived and lied to. "I knew you didn't fall asleep in someone's arms by mistake," she pretended to be exhausted and soon gave up blocking his approaches. I was angry, but after a few hours of traveling, I decided to tell her we could work things out. I got home and waited for her with bated breath. I was overjoyed to see her. She informed me she wanted a divorce later that night after our kid had gone to bed. As strange as it may seem, her news utterly caught me off guard. She maintained she wasn't leaving me for him and that he was uninvolved. The next day, I packed a handful of my belongings and went with our kid. A week or so after we split up, she was staying at our house with this man she met out of town and had traveled to visit. When I came over to pick up some more stuff, I learned they had been having an affair. I later discovered that they had been since the week after they met, thanks to my investigation. She'd wait until I'd gone to bed with our kid before staying up and sending him nudes, videos of her, and messages. I'd gradually been able to gain some answers from her during the period of our separation. She believes that spending that weekend with him taught her that she would never be happy with me and that she is not in love with me. That whenever she said that I and our family were all she ever wanted, she was deceiving herself. She speaks of building a future with this person, having his children, marrying, and how thrilled she is for him to be a part of our son's life and teach him all he knows. When I question her how she could do this to me and our family, she replies it wasn't planned and simply occurred, that she fell in love and found true happiness. Her adulterous partner is 23 years old. He has no children. He is still living at home, as far as I know. It's a direct punch to the ego that she finds this more enticing than myself. They want to live together within the next month or so. Our divorce isn't even complete yet, and specialists have warned her that it might have a bad influence on our kid. I've been at this for about 5 months and don't feel like I'm making any progress. When I'm not with my kid, I wake up feeling more alone, knowing that my soon-to-be ex-wife is awake with this connection to another guy. And it's driving me insane. I'm making every effort to progress. I try to find strength in my son. I want to do better for myself, and I realize how selfish she was. For nearly 2 months, I've been visiting a counselor once a week. On the one hand, I want her to change because it would be the best result for our child. On the other hand, I want it to fail. I want everything to explode up in their faces. Thank you for sticking with me this far. Please accept my apologies if I carried on a bit too long. To get any work done, I had to take some pauses.